Welcome to the last of this podcast series, the Lunchtime.com podcast. Thanks to everyone who's liked, subscribed, and commented so far. It's been a really, really wild Euro 2020. Definitely one of the best tournaments I've seen. Mr. Lunchtime, have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it's been brilliant, but can't complain. Way more attack minded than the usual tournament football. I think the crowds coming back has definitely added to it, and it has given a bit of normality to it, and it's been a great watch with two brilliant semi-finals I thought during the week. Couldn't ask for much more, both going to extra time, controversy, goals, refereeing decisions, everything in both games. What would you call it, the tricks of the trade from the Italians and making sure to bring Spain to a penalty shootout where they are literally unbeat, but a penalty's Italy. And then you had England grinding it out against Denmark. Thought Denmark were very tired towards the end, and it kind of England's bench warning for them. I know the penalty decision was wrong, but the way England were playing, the goal was coming, and I'd imagine if England reverted to defending after that to close it out. They did that really well, which was a good sign in them. Southgate made a big decision in taking off Grealish after bringing him on, and he brought on Kieran Trippier for him, and he moved to 5 at the back and just shut the game down. I thought that was pretty good management again from Southgate. But all in all, a brilliant tournament. Really looking forward to the final. And yourself?
What you said there is reflected in the stats. We've played 50 games so far in this tournament, the final on Sunday being the 51st. The games are averaging 2.8 goals a game, which is serious, I mean, that includes the incredible quarterfinals we had, obviously. But yeah, for me, it's just been an amazing tournament. We're going to jump through this quickly because we want to keep this podcast quite short if we can, an easy listen for you guys. Mr. Lunchtime, we're going to talk about, first of all, any players before the tournament that maybe we mightn't have mentioned whose sort of stock has risen because of their performances over the 6 games.
Yes, without a doubt. The number one player for me would have to be Pedri from Barcelona in Spain. He's 18 years of age. He played every minute of the tournament for Spain. He ran the middle of the pitch last night. He ran the middle of the pitch in every game he played, but he just ran the game against a good Italian midfielder last night. They couldn't get near him. I think it was extra time before he finally gave the ball away. Now, you can say, I think he had 61 completed passes in the game. Now, usually you'd say, if that was your Declan Rice, excuse me, if that was your Declan Rice or whoever, that they're passing the ball backwards. 47 of his 61 passes were in the opposition half. He just loves getting on the ball. He's just an outstanding player. And I know Barcelona are in serious financial turmoil at the moment. And I imagine the big clubs in Europe are going to be sniffing around this guy, trying to get him on a cheap deal. Similar to the way Fabregas left Barcelona in the past and them sort of players. And he may go back to Barcelona there again. Another player that I think has...
Just before we leave this Lunchtime, a year ago he wasn't starting. A year and a half ago he wasn't starting for Las Palmas in the second division, and his talent and sort of fortitude to battle his way up, get into the Barcelona team, scored that insane own goal, which was really Unai Simon's fault. Even in that game, you saw a touch of something that was a little bit different. His head didn't drop. He kept doing the right things. A lot of centre midfielders will play that sideways or backwards pass because it's just easier. They get the ball to feet, whether they turn or not. It's so much easier not to turn, knock it back. You're still doing your job. Pedri has the bravery to get the ball, to turn, to seek out the more difficult passes, as well as linking up the play. So, yeah, new sort of Iniesta, possibly. It's very, very high praise, but I think just the ceiling is so high for this guy. He has the mental fortitude. He has the just skill and abundance, and yeah, that's a great pick.
Definitely, I couldn't argue with any of that. I think he's a superstar in the making. He's 18. He's going to be, by the time the World Cup comes, 19 and a half. The next Euros in 3 years' time, he's only going to be 21. He's going to be in his third major tournament at that stage. It's amazing, really. Then next, I'd have to mention a Leeds favourite of mine for England in Calvin Phillips. Many English supporters did not want him in the squad, never mind the team. But Southgate seen something in him. And like, he keeps that England midfield ticking over. Now, they're not great in the middle of the pitch, but I think his stock has definitely risen amongst the English fans. And he's appreciated now, we shall say.
Yeah.
But he's always been appreciated by Leeds fans. He's a brilliant player.
I think he's appreciated now is the word. He's had a solidly good tournament, totally overshadowing his midfield partner Declan Rice, whose price tag is at least double his. But I think that will make people think twice, because if they haven't heard of him before the tournament, if they don't watch Premier League football, they'll know about Calvin Phillips now. I thought in the group stages, when they struggled in the first games against the Czech Republic, he was very, very strong. He's Declan Rice plus. He can do everything Declan Rice does. He's sort of abrasive. He's a good tackler, but also he can come forward with the ball. He can play a pass. He's braver. So I've been impressed with Phillips as well.
And finally, for me, it'll be the Italian left back Spinazzola, and we witnessed with our eyes on Tuesday evening against Spain how much they missed this guy. He is an outstanding attacking wing back. Even defensively, he's very good. And that probably gets ignored a bit because of his attacking abilities. But they really missed him the last night. They ended up having to take off Emerson, his replacement, who got tired. And I think if they start Emerson in the final, they're going to be in trouble. They moved the right back. His name escapes me. What's his name, Biggie? Yeah. They moved him over to left back and brought on Tolai at right back. And I think that's the way they'll have to play, because Spinazzola is such a big loss to them. He gives them so much going forward. He's so good defensively. He's just such a solid player. And it's one of them things, you notice him when he's there, but you notice him even more when he's not there. And that's always a good sign in the player.
100% Roma wingback. He's been absolutely a ball of energy. He's just, even if a wingback doesn't get the ball, just them making that run puts the indecision in whoever is coming towards the player with the ball. Say if Barella, who's been really good at this, is bursting from midfield, the wingback, the corresponding wingback or the centre back, one of them will have to come, and they get pulled in one direction or another because of the runs of the other wingback. So it just creates that sort of overload that allows people like Barella or Pessina or Locatelli to come through for goals. I think, Spinazzola has been absolutely fantastic. It was a travesty he got injured. It's a big foresight on Mancini's part to bring Toloi, because they're down to their dregs now in their wingbacks because of injuries. So now they have Di Lorenzo, who's really looked out of his depth when he's played. Emerson is fantastic going forward. He's really energetic, similarly on the left side. So I think they play Emerson because you're not too worried about England's attack. I think Italy aren't too worried. Donnarumma has been playing international football for 5 years. He's never conceded more than one goal in a game. This England team have 10 goals so far in this tournament, and 4 of them are against a Ukraine team that had to be wheeled off the plane and pushed onto the pitch in Rome. So I think they'll go attacking in terms of their wing backs, and they won't play Toloi, because Toloi is a centre half who's just in the end of his career being pushed to right back. So he won't offer anything going forward. Mancini will take a chance, is what I'm saying.
We'll see. I think it's a final. It's a different story. Nerves come into it and all that as well. But sure, we'll see. We'll move on. We'll get who's impressed you.
Impressed me, Elvedi and Akanji, the 2 Swiss centre-backs. I think both very young, quality centre-backs. They're going to have another 10 years in front of them of quality play. Playing for Mönchengladbach and Dortmund could be good pickups by anybody. I think the main feature that what would attract them to like top clubs would be that they're both brilliant on the ball. They can both take the ball from deep. They're both very athletic as well. They were brilliant. I thought Mela, who I penciled in before the tournament as one of the key men for Denmark, our dark horse, who unfortunately got knocked out. 2 goals, 2 assists. Mela was fantastic. Came a cropper of my last pick, which is Kyle Walker in the quarterfinal. Kyle Walker in the semi-final, Kyle Walker really had his number. Mela looked very, very tired. And that is that. Let's go straight away to Spain and Italy. The semi-final. What sort of stood out for you, Mr. Lunchtime?
What stood out for me in particular is that it was the first time in the tournament that Italy did not have the ball. Yeah. And it was the first time we've seen them come under a bit of pressure defensively. They spent a lot of time defending, but they held on, which is impressive. They managed to get the first goal, which came against the run of play, obviously. But once they got it, then they had something to hold on to. And then obviously they seen out extra time very well, which will stand to them. The one worry I have for Italy is they haven't been behind yet in the tournament.
Can I add to that for a moment? Italy, the last time Italy were behind in a game was 3 years ago against Bosnia when Dzeko scored away. They were behind for exactly 10 minutes and they equalised. This team hasn't been behind, not in this tournament. This team hasn't been behind in this generation of players for Italy in a competitive game.
Yeah, well, they lost one game to Portugal in 2018 in the Nations League, but apart from that, they haven't been behind. So it will be interesting to see if England can get the first goal, how Italy react. It'll be very interesting to see that.
Just from that game, Mr. Lunchtime, like Luis Enrique is known for being an unbelievably sort of brave coach, you could say. Some would say pig-headed who disagree with him. He dropped Morata despite all the faith he had in him for the semi-final. How do you think that worked out?
Yeah, well, it obviously didn't work now that they're out of the tournament. But I could see why he did it too, because his replacement, he kind of played as a false nine, and it gave them an extra body in the middle of the pitch up against Italy's three. It kind of made them have four in the middle, which did help them create chances. And to be fair to him, like nobody would be talking about this decision if they took some of the chances that they created in the first half, especially. Like there was one ball Pedri played through to him. Now Morata, I know you could never say he would have finished it, but the replacement tried to take it with his left foot, the first touch, even though he's left-footed. He was through one-on-one with the keeper, and he made balls really off the touch. So, like, you know, if they had got that first goal, you could say it was a good decision. But since they didn't win the game, you'd have to question it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's like one thing Morata does is his work rate is incredible, and like despite being an average finisher, he does get in position for a lot of goal-scoring chances. But yeah, Oyarzabal, that's a brilliant point you made. He did come into the midfield. That was the first time we've ever seen this Italy midfield overrun. Verratti, Jorginho, and Barella. You couldn't but see that Pedri, Busquets, Koke, and Oyarzabal had the better of them for the vast majority of that game. You know, but Italy did what they do, and if you've played Chiellini and Bonucci with Donnarumma behind them, those three are just like incredible. Like, it's very hard to see any better trio in the world. So yeah, Spain couldn't break them down really. And I know that they had a couple of chances in that game, but there was nothing that clear cut really. You know, I think they had 2 or 3 big chances in the game officially. We go on to the Denmark-England.
Yeah, I'll let you take that one away.
Yeah, no real surprise here. The best thing that came for Lunchtime here was that our dark horse got to the semi-final, but it would have been such a coup for the two of us if Denmark had pulled it off. But something that you pointed out to me earlier in the week, which our listeners will be fascinated to hear if they don't know, all the semi-finalists played all their group games at home. So England, Denmark, Spain, and Italy all got that luxury of staying in their home pitch for the first 3 games. England have only been away from home once, which was to Rome. Denmark have had, you know, a more circuitous route when they had to leave the park and stadium, which made it, you know, it showed, I think, on their players.
Yeah, and one big thing on that actually is Denmark were literally in another continent for their quarterfinal game against the Czech Republic when they were in Baku for their quarterfinal. and then they had to travel to England to take on England in Wembley with their 60,000 fans behind them. So I thought that was very unfair on Denmark, to be honest.
Yeah, the 3rd of July, they're in Azerbaijan, closer to the Ural Mountains than they are to Europe. And it's just, that's the night of the 3rd. Then they're playing a game on the night of the 7th in London. All that time between they're traveling. Like, I don't know how long the flight is, but you're probably looking at a 6, 7, 8 hour flight to London. Then you're getting set up in new headquarters the next day. Then you might have a run out in training, but it's I think it's very, very unfair. The reason this competition was decentralized anyway was for Michel Platini was trying to get votes to get into a new role, which he's now gotten into as the FIFA Pro representative for France. So this was Platini's idea to celebrate the 60th European Championships, to decentralize it and put it to places. But what I was thinking, Mr. Lunchtime, is the reason countries like Ireland don't get a Euros is because of infrastructure. We don't have enough stadiums. Why were all the biggest countries in Europe, basically, plus Azerbaijan and Russia, given home advantage? Surely they could have put them in, there could have been Macedonia, Czech Republic.
100%.
Sorry, Wales.
100%.
Scotland got one that was very, very good. But why isn't the advantage should be given to the smaller teams, surely then?
But I could be wrong on this now. I could be talking out of we'll put a beep there.
That's what this podcast is all about, and we don't have those editing skills. So.
But I could be talking out of my arse, but I'm pretty sure that the bigger nations have more votes at these things. Ireland, say, would have 1 vote, Macedonia would have 1 vote, England might have 10. So obviously these countries aren't like Spain, France. They're not going to vote for a thing to travel everywhere if they're not going to get a certain amount of game, that sort of way.
Yeah.
If they're not going to get a certain amount of games. So I'd imagine that had something to do with it. I have no idea, and it's all guesswork. But I imagine that had something to do with the decision in how they selected the countries that are hosting it.
If Platini, if it's Platini's idea, and they took Platini's idea, Platini's been banned since 2015 for taking 2 million of a bribe of Sepp Blatter. He's banned until 2023. He's still not allowed to be involved in any soccer, and that's how he got this FIFA Pro, a player's representative job for France. He's not allowed to be involved in UEFA. It's so but I guarantee you, it's just a money thing. It's definitely not a fans thing. The fans want a festival of football centralized in one country. We don't give a shit which one, as long as it's in Europe. And for fans, imagine you had to travel to Baku, and then from Baku to Wembley. How are you taking time off? How are you planning it? How are you getting tickets?
But sure, you weren't even allowed to. That with quarantine rules. No Danish fan that wasn't in England for 10 days before that game could go to the game.
So all the diehard fans who made all the way to Baku, they were not allowed to go.
They were not allowed to go, no.
Yeah.
So it's just wrong. And also another thing that definitely influenced why England have the latter stages is to shut the English media up, because for years they've been going on about bribery and corruption in football. It led to the FBI investigating Sepp Blatter a couple of years ago. In fairness to English media, they did come down hard on it, but as we're seeing now, there's not a word from them about it, because they're happy enough with their own little tournament on their own land, so they don't care. So self-interest is coming to the fore again. But that is definitely something to do with it as well, I'd say.
That's a part of the good media whistleblowing. Anything against Platini, who got a World Cup in the desert in the summer in Qatar, in which 8,000 slaves have died so far making it. Anything, any media investigation of him, I totally agree with. Right, we're gone bogged down in the weeds. I'm going to quickly run through the England-Denmark game. I'm sure everybody has seen it. Gareth Southgate again, ultra-conservative tactics. The first half showed England's inability to play football. This is a problem this is just my own theory. This is a problem that Celtic teams and England have. You see it England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland. I think it's to do with when we're growing up, a lot of the pitches are shit and the weather conditions are really poor. So a lot of the time you're encouraged to go long with the ball after 1 or 2 passes. Because if you're playing on a wet day on a kind of bumpy pitch all through your underage career, you can't really play that sort of football because there'll be too many mistakes. Like imagine rolling it out to a right back or a left back, Mr. Lunchtime, out Nuke Gerard on a rotten pitch, and you wouldn't be long getting caught. But
No, that's for sure.
I believe that's the reason most players in Europe, most German players, for example, would play on AstroTurf or this kind of sand, which is kind of like a sand court. The ball's on the floor all the time. It's only crossed in or chipped over the keeper for a goal. That's the only time the ball really needs to leave the air. So it's the same artificial or is it 4G surfaces in France and in Spain, and that's the way these players are reared. So you can't blame England that much for that. You can blame them for dropping their best natural footballer, who's Jack Grealish. If you want to link up play around the midfield, he's your man. Phillips is their best at this. He's still quite average by sort of, if we look at the Spain-Italy game, for an example, you saw the best midfielders in Europe there doing battle, and they were able to keep, once you lost the ball, they were able to pass it, 3 or 4 passes in a little 10-yard diamond and get it out of there. But yeah, I thought again Sterling was fantastic at the back. Maguire has had a really, really good tournament. He's been solid. He and Stones have been gotten out of jail, from what I've seen, 3 to 5 times by the speed of Kyle Walker, where their mistakes in stepping up at the wrong time are not tracking a man. Walker has just been the foil for them, who's he's managed to erase all the potential mistakes that they've made, and the ones that he couldn't, like Thomas Muller running through when they were 1-0, they managed to get away with, or Pickford, who's been brilliant in this tournament up to the last game. But yeah, the semi-final seemed to be way too much for Pickford. He's had a really, really good tournament, but the semi-final, he looks seriously nervy, Mr. Lunchtime.
Oh, he's going to be targeted by the Italians on Sunday. They are going to do everything to get after him. He's hot-headed at the best of times, and he can do anything rash and stupid. And I can just imagine the first corner kick when Chiellini and Bonucci come up. And you've seen Chiellini the last night squeezing Jordi Alba before, the penalty shootout.
Yeah.
Bear hugging him in the middle of the pitch. Like, the battle for the penalties was won there and then. Jordi Alba didn't know what to do. But like that first corner kick, first free kick, the ball is going in on top of Pickford, and Chiellini and Bonucci are going to be right there, and they're going to go after him. And the Italians will go after him. And
there's a where, like, if you foul the keeper initially, you almost never get a yellow card. So you might as well foul him properly. You told him the first time, because Pickford is so nervy anyway. It's a great show.
Yeah, I think they are, and I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Now, obviously, the likes of Maguire and Stones, it's up to them to protect him. But the two boys are wily and long enough on the road. A bit of guile about them, as the great Eamon Dunphy would say. And I can see them going after him. Really, really going after him. Getting in their faces. Another one that could be wound up is Declan Rice. You see him. I think we spoke about this on the podcast before, about throwing his fists up to the crowd and all that. I seen him doing another solo run on it the last day after the game. All the players were in a huddle celebrating, and he was running around the pitch kissing his jersey and running to the crowd, and while the rest of his players were in a huddle just going off on his own little thing. He's quite hot-headed as well.
Do you think that's the result of kind of vindication for him, because he took a lot of flack for leaving the Irish setup, and do you think like them winning would be vindication for him? I did the right thing, and that's why he's kind of.
Yeah, it definitely has something to do with it, but you don't see Grealish at that. He just strikes me as like, I don't really have great evidence for it, but he strikes me as a bit of a loose cannon, and the 3 boys in the middle of the pitch for Italy will target him. Like, he is the weak link, and they will go after him. You see Verratti throwing himself into tackles, Jorginho throwing himself into tackles. I wouldn't put it beyond him with the emotion of the day, all that sort of stuff that comes into a final. It's a big occasion for him to do something stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him. It just wouldn't put it past him. No, I've no evidence for that. I don't know if he's ever been sent off in his career. There's just something about him that I can see him doing something like that. It's a big thing in a final. We see it in every sport. It's who deals with the pressure the best. In fairness to England, this team has played in Champions League and Europa League finals in recent times. Only this year, like you had Man United, City, Chelsea all playing in European finals, so they have the experience of the big day, which could stand to them.
Harry Kane as well,
Harry Kane, yeah. I know the Italians also have that, but they don't have as many players that have played in these big finals, where it is it's a bigger occasion. It is a home game for England, so that will be interesting. Like the first 10 minutes, who's setting the tempo, who's settling in, because you always see some guy step up in the final, and a guy you might not expect, and he has the best game of his life in the final, and then the guy you do expect to play well might fall apart in the final. It happens so often in every sport.
He gets overwhelmed by the occasion.
Exactly.
I can see that. As we're on the final, let's keep going. How do you see this one going? Is Gareth Southgate going to stick with his kind of ultra conservative, sort of tactics? Again, play Saka for his sort of defensive capabilities more so than attacking. He'll play Saka Mount.
Yeah, I'm beginning to. I'm of the opinion that he's going to do what he did against Germany, Biggie. To be honest, and I think he's going to play 5 at the back like he did against Germany.
Okay.
Because of the threat that Italy posed down the flanks, with the overload, and I can just see him reverting to, as he did to close out the game the last night when he moved to a 5. I think he'll move Walker into the third centre half like they did against Germany and play Trippier right back.
In fairness,
I don't know.
That makes them almost impossible to break down, doesn't it?
It 100% does. It's going to be a very tight and cagey game. It's very hard to call. Obviously, I hope Italy win and be great for Lunchtime as it's our 12-1 tip pre-tournament. But it's going to be very, very tight. I said it here last week about both games. I would not rule out a penalty shootout. It is not out of the question at all. I've gone through the history of these two teams in this cycle since the last World Cup when they've played sort of the bigger nations, and both teams have a lot of 1-1 draws against the top teams. Portugal, it was the only team that has beaten Italy in this cycle. England have lost to Denmark 1-0, Spain 2-1, and Belgium 2-0. So they do struggle to score in these big games. Like they've drawn twice with Denmark now. I know they won after extra time the last night. Now they did beat Germany 2-0, but like the goal came in the counter-attack, the second goal in the last minute. Whereas Italy, like they had that win over Belgium 2-1, which is very impressive. And the other big teams they've played in this time they've played Holland 3 times. They've drew 1-1 twice and won 1-0 the other time, and they've drawn with Spain 1-1 the last night. So it's going to be cagey, and it's going to be very hard for either side to break the other side down. They are both solid defensively, and that'd be where I'm looking. I'd probably be looking at a 1-1 draw sort of a thing, to be honest, Biggie. I don't know about you. What would you be thinking?
I got to stick with my guns. I'll tell you why Italy will win this in normal time. England have created 58 chances in the tournament so far, 9 per game. England 58 chances. Italy have created 108, 21 per game, resulting in 12 goals. Italy are way better in the centre of midfield, and I think that's where they'll dominate this game. When England get pressure, if Italy can sort of recover properly from that semi-final and get their high press back, England would not be able to retain the ball. You're going to see the ball going Declan Rice, Kyle Walker, back to Pickford. Pickford lumps it. Chiellini wins it. Italy get possession again to build an attack. England really, really struggle to build attacks. They're brilliant defensively, but their lack of ball players in the midfield and lack of sort of, it's not system. There's no systematic way of creating a goal, apart from, say, talent from maybe a Sterling or a Kane, who I thought were both brilliant in the semi-final, but that will not be enough against Italy. And I think Italy are going to win this maybe 2-0 in normal time. Have you a bet for me? Of course, we'll share these online, so don't panic about writing them down, and they probably won't come in anyway, so certainly don't panic. But
I'm going to probably back the draw myself, but I have two little bet builders because I think they're a nice thing for a final.
Lovely.
I have one that pays 16-1, and that is for Chiesa to have a shot on target, Mason Mount to have a shot on target, Italy to lift the cup, and Italy to have over 4.5 corners in the game. So that's 16-1. And then a little crazy 50-cent one that pays 222-1 big. So we have Jorginho to be booked.
Yeah.
Chiellini to have a shot on target, either that can be a header or a shot from one of them over 4.5 corners.
Yeah.
And Italy to win on a penalty shootout. So that pays 222-1.
That's definitely your 50-cent ones. That, like, if it comes in, yeah, you'll definitely have earned your money. I have my favorite one is Italy to win in normal time, Verratti to be shown a card, Chiesa shot on target. That's 9-1.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah.
And if you want to add a little bit of lunchtime madness into that, Italy 90 minutes, Verratti to get a card, Chiesa shot on target, and Rice to get a card, 38-1.
There you go. Yeah, that's not bad at all.
I don't know if Declan Rice will even get near enough the ball in this game to foul someone. We'll stick them all up on site. If people want to have a go at them for very, very, very small money, then by all means give it a go. We actually got all our bets right for the semi-finals, which was pretty cool.
We did, for a change, yeah.
No harm. Before we go lunchtime, let's do a bit of. I'll give a bit of a build up here. So the 1968 final, Italy against the Soviet Union. Extra time. After extra time, of course, the dreaded coin toss, which was done by the two captains in the dressing room. Italy won it, and they won their first ever Euros, beating Yugoslavia in the final. 1976, penalties, Czech Republic against West Germany. Uli Hoeneß misses the fourth penalty. Who steps up for the Czech Republic, Mr. Lunchtime? Antonia Panenka. And what does he do in front of a roaring crowd? He chips it down the middle and silences them and writes his name into the history books. 1992, we have Denmark. They shouldn't have been in the tournament. The Federation of Yugoslavia collapsed and Denmark were asked to join. After a sloppy start, they ended up winning the tournament. Peter Schmeichel saved a Van Basten penalty in the semi-final. And will we get moments of magic like that on Sunday? I think it's going to be one of the best finals we've ever seen. Full crowd in Wembley, the passion of the Italians, the passion of this English team under Southgate. I can't wait for it, Mr. Lunchtime.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to get my pizza and I'm going to have a few, it'll have to be non-alcoholic Italian beers, as I've been a bit under the weather this week. And I'm going to really have an Italian weekend for myself.
Me too. Some nice non-alcoholic Peroni for you, some alcoholic Peroni for me, perhaps. And yeah, we'll shout our boys Italy home. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to these podcasts. Over the summer, we have a series of guests lined up. We have to get back to GAA. After GAA, we might look at the Lions in rugby. And then finally, we're going to have a look at a lot of NFL season bets. Check out Mr. Lunchtime's Golf every week. It pops up on a Wednesday. It is must-read journalism. And yeah, enjoy the final. Thank you so much for listening. Like, subscribe, and share with your friends.